Welcome to our Nation State Dialogue Series, राष्ट्र राज्य संवाद श्रृंखला में आपका स्वागत है. I'm Dr. Geeta Kochar, moderator for today's discussion. Today it's our great pleasure to have with us a well-known scholar of China, Professor Wei Zongyou. He's a professor of Center for American Studies, Fudan University, and he received his MA in International History and Ph.D. in International Relations from Nanjing University. From July 2004 to September 2014, he worked at the Institute of International and Diplomatic Affairs, Shanghai International Studies University. In 2008 to 2005, he was a Fulbright advanced researcher at Government Department, Georgetown University. Professor Wei's research interest covers American security and foreign policy, American domestic politics, Sino-U.S. relations, and global governance. He has numerous publications, to name a few: In the Shadow of Hegemony, Strategic Choices, published in 2010. U.S. Foreign Policy during Johnson's administration was co-authored by him in 2009. And he co-edited Emerging Economies and International Relations in 2013. He has also published dozens of articles and book chapters in leading Chinese journals. So welcome, Professor Wei, for our Nation State Dialogue channel. Let me begin by asking you, how do you see, Trump's return to power and U.S. approach to China?
Well, I think it brings more uncertainty to China-U.S. relations. You see, since the first term of Donald Trump's administration, in the policy toward has largely failed. Then he proposed a so-called strategic competition with China. I think extended into the Biden administration. So given Trump's record and his attitudes toward China, I think this time, or during his second term, I think his policy toward China will be, I think, in a way, more competitive. So the strategic competitor, his attitude toward China, I think will largely remains. I think this will bring a great uncertainty in years ahead. Thank you.
So, I mean, he has already invited President Xi Jinping, for his inaugural, oath-taking ceremony. So, don't you think that he is actually extending the olive branch to the Chinese? And so, what would be the Chinese response to that?
Well, I don't think it's a formal invitation. He just said on the social media, and it was not a very invitation. So far, China's attitudes toward that, and China hasn't yet refused, but also haven't yet said yes. So China's attitudes towards this kind of very informal invitation is still unclear. Maybe China is just thinking about whether or not to attend this kind of event. But anyway, I think from this proposal, I think Trump values the China very much. Mentioned United States can work together. It will help to solve lots of problems faced today's world.
I mean, one of the things that I understand about China in terms of U.S. relations is China has certain red lines. Say, for example, Taiwan. Do you see that in Trump's 2.0, there would be some kind of rapprochement between U.S. and China over Taiwan issue, or it is inevitable conflict that's going to happen?
Well, I don't think the Taiwan issue will be the top priority of the Trump administration. For Trump, the trade issue will be his #1 foreign policy priority. So for China-U.S. relations, I think the trade issue will be his main focus or priority. If the Trump administration wants to wants to cross the red line, there will be a great uncertainty or turbulence between China and the United States. I think Trump knows that. So I don't think Trump will cross the red line concerning the Taiwan issue. And of course, maybe the Trump administration wants to sell some weapons to Taiwan or have some kind of exchanges between, especially maybe send some send some officials to visit Taiwan. But I don't think there will be a great event concerning the Taiwan issue.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you are telling that there cannot be a conflict between U.S. and China. I mean, no possibility of war in near future. Is that right?
No,
at least not in the short term.
No, I don't think there will be war or conflict over Taiwan issue.
Mm-hmm. I mean, another thing which I find about China is it is a lot of concerns about U.S.-India relations, especially when we talk about Quad and the Indo-Pacific that you have really worked on. So how does China view U.S.-India closeness in the coming Trump era, and what are the concerns of China? Can you just tell us about that?
Well, in my opinion, as long as India develops very normal relations with the United States and other countries, China, every country can develop very friendly relations with other countries, and China welcomes that. But if India develops relations with the United States or other parties aiming at encircle or contain China, I don't think China will be very happy about that. Yeah, so generally speaking, China welcomes the friendly relations between India and the United States. But on the other hand, if India tries to use the United States as a kind of leverage to push China, I don't think it will be good for bilateral relations. And I also observe that India in recent years values its relation with Russia, and India is trying to improve its relations with China, because in China, both China and Russia are very important partners of India. So India does not want to go too how to say in its relations with the United States. India is not does not want to be seen as a kind of against China. So I think since last year, India has rebalanced its foreign relations a little bit, and I think it's good for India-China relations, because both India and China are large developing countries, and we are neighbors. We cannot move away, and some border issues, and also to improve the trade relations between China and India, I think.
One of the things that we understand with Trump's coming to power is he would actually want to do America first, right? He surely wants to remain as a superpower.
Yeah, surely.
And China is, in one sense, a strong economic challenge to that supremacy. So what will be the impact of US sanctions on China and its larger goals when China has been talking about major power relations and things like that?
Well, I don't think China wants to challenge the United States, because China's basic goal is to improve the well-being of its own people and develop itself. So I don't think China wants to challenge or to replace the United States. Of course, the United States may feel that as China rises, it may pose some kind of challenge to the United States. But China does not think in that way. But if the United States wants to impose sanctions against China, especially in in the trade issues, for example, Trump said that he maybe will impose up to 50 or % tariffs against Chinese products exported to the United States. If Trump really does that, it will be a disaster for China-U.S. economic relations and bilateral relations. Maybe he will selectively impose some tariffs against some of the Chinese goods, but I don't think he will impose across the board general tariffs against all Chinese exports to the United States.
I mean, having said that, I think one of the things which we have been looking recently in terms of China is China's approach to global governance, which is a lot of debate within China, and it has reshaped its approaches to how it looks at global governance. Do you see this these new initiatives by China, like the Global Security Initiative, have any greater role in terms of the objectives China have? Because there's a lot of debate in India and abroad about the objectives of these kind of new initiatives, whether it's GDI or GSI and things like that. Can you just throw some light on that and how that is related to global governance? Yeah.
Okay. I think as China grows, China wants to contribute more to the international community and to promote public goods to the international community. For example, in terms of climate change and also global infrastructure construction and so on and so forth. Concerning the Global Security Initiative, I think the best idea is that the security is a kind of comprehensive, sustainable, and a common security. One country's security cannot be based on the insecurity of the other party, and any country cannot seek that kind of absolute security. And if you do in that way, maybe there will be some kind of security dilemma. You cannot have this kind of absolute security. If you want this kind of absolute security, maybe your sense of absolute security will lead to the insecurity of the other parties and leading to a kind of security dilemma. So I think the basic idea is security is a kind of common goods and be comprehensive and making every people or every country feels some kind of security instead of one country monopolizes the security at the expense of the other countries. Yeah, that's how I take that concept.
So it's not about China is seeking security alliances as alliance partners with other countries, but it is looking at security in a larger context of each country having its own security, and there's a cooperation.
Yes, that's the point.
Okay, so let me just push you to the last question that I wanted to really pose to you, and that is definitely related to India-China relations. We do see some kind of thaw that has happened after 4 long years of real problems between India and China relations. What do you expect with the SR talks that are happening, special representative talks that are happening? Because our NSA, Ajit Dovalji, is in Beijing right now, and they are really talking about how to improve relations, maybe resolve the boundary issue in whatever manner. So what are the expectations China has, or the debate that China has over that, and what are your expectations of China for future relations with India?
You see, it has been 5 years since the last SR talks between China and India. So I think it's a good sign that both sides finally to resume this kind of talks concerning to stabilize the border and to avoid the further incidents along the border. I think both China and India should improve their bilateral relations, because we are all large emerging countries. We have some similar concept about the global governance to improve this kind of global governance, and we both want to push towards the multilateral, have a more multilateral world in terms of political structure or what power configuration. So I think China and India can join hands in providing public goods, but first of all, India and China should peacefully solve their border issues. Firstly, I think through this kind of SR talks, they should work out some mechanism how to avoid further incidents along the border, because once there's clashes between China and India, there will be heated discussion and rising nationalism within China and within India. It will not helpful for the stability, the development of both countries, and there's large room for China and India to improve their economic relations. So I think this is a very good sign for two sides to finally resume this kind of talks concerning how to stabilize the border issue in China-India relations. I hope there will be some tangible results from these kind of talks, especially how to avoid further incidents along the border.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we have already done some kind of a disengagement, and some kind of de-escalation is required right now. I mean, there are steps to be taken, and definitely, you know, one of the things that you're talking about is to avoid future confrontations, which would be not very fruitful for bilateral relations and impede our, you know, progress towards building trust. That's definitely there. It was great, you know, talking to you, Professor Wei. Thank you for taking time out in your busy schedule. I hope we'll have future conversations as well on this, some more interactions. Thank you very much, and we'll continue our interactions. We'll have much more, you know, kind of conversations going. To our viewers, please hit the like icon and subscribe to our channel for many more interesting discussions and getting, you know, diverse opinions about relations, bilateral and geopolitical relations. Thank you very much. Namaskar.